You said that the whole Sean Taylor statue, may has deserved something better, honestly. But, honestly, were you surprised at all with what you saw when, it was revealed, kind of knowing this organization standards? Or were you shocked? Like, honestly?
Yeah, I want to say thank you, Mackenzie, for giving me this opportunity to say this. Because I said it on Twitter, and it's like the second year in a row that the Sean Taylor Day or Memorial has kind of been, mishandled. His family will never say anything bad about it because it was impactful to them that they were putting something in place to memorialize Sean Taylor in general. So the Adidas cleats, which were soccer cleats that he wore because they were more comfortable for him, all of that stuff is very sentimental to his family. But as a fan of Sean Taylor, when you say, hey, we're going to put a statue of him, we're going to do a memorial of him, you got to go get a bronze statue of him done. That almost looked like, and I know a lot of people have said this, it almost looked like they had a group project and they remembered that it was due the next day. That was a mannequin from Macy's. And that bothered me like deeply because I was a fan of Sean Taylor. I didn't play safety, right? I played quarterback. But that's how transcendent of a player he was to be able to influence generations of football players. He deserves more. I know there's been a lot of rumblings out there about the team possibly getting sold. And I've been one that said I'd be interested in being a minority owner and have gone out and secured the funds to make that happen. If the team does get sold, I think that's one of the first things that they should do is go out and actually immortalize Sean Taylor the way that he should be. Give him a statue in front of the stadium. The guy is just beyond important to the franchise, beyond important to the fans. He deserved better than that.
I agree. It definitely looked like a mannequin at Foot Locker, and for Sean Taylor to have such an impact to have that there was disrespectful. And like you said, this was the second time. What did he have? His memorial near the bathroom last time?
Yep.
That's ridiculous. DC got to get it together. Sean Taylor deserves much better. If Dan Snyder does sell the team, obviously you just said yourself, who else would you like to see have a hand in ownership of the Commanders?
Yeah, at the end of the day, NFL ownership is a very unique group of people. There's like 5 people in America that can truly become a majority owner by themselves with the amount of money that they have in their bank account of the Washington Commanders. My whole point is this. I don't know who it should be, but I know that whoever it is should bring in people with DC ties because that's going to be important to the fan base. I kind of put out there that I would, put in money and bring 10 fans along for the ride, and they don't have to pay anything. And I think that endears the fans to the process. It kind of gives them a light into how this operates. But I'm not going to be able to be a majority owner because I don't have billions in my bank account, right? So whoever that is has to have ties to the city, has to have an understanding of what the city needs. And like a Jeff Bezos, if he comes out and decides that he wants to own the Commanders, he can do it. He can buy almost every team in the NFL. He can't buy every team in the NFL. Let's be real. If he wants to do that, then I think it'd be incumbent upon him to go out and seek the advice of people who are in the city and know exactly what's going on, because that's going to be important. I'd love to be one of those people. I was drafted to Washington. I really love the city, really love the fan base, understand the dynamics of that franchise and what's gone wrong there for so many years. So I'd love to be a part of that. But at the end of the day, I think the fans will probably throw a parade the day that Dan Snyder sells the team.
Oof.
On the field, this team just seems to play differently with Taylor Heinicke. In your opinion, is this just a flash in the pan, or can he actually be the guy in D.C.? And also, how should this quarterback situation play out for the Commanders, you think?
Yeah, right now, Taylor Heinicke 6-1 as a starter. I've said this a bunch. They're in a huge conundrum right now. When Taylor Heinicke is the guy, he's proven that he can't be the guy. But when he's the backup, he's proven that he can come in and win you games. So for them, right now, on both sides of the ball, they are owning the line of scrimmage. Offense, running the football with Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson. Defense, with all those first-round picks that they have, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and now you obviously have Chase Young coming back as well. I just think for them, it's a clear and obvious thing that Carson Wentz is the more talented quarterback. But right now their team gravitates towards Taylor Heinicke. And it doesn't matter how he plays. I've really never seen anything quite like this. The guy can throw for 130 yards and they go win the game, and everybody's talking about how he's the greatest quarterback of all time and how he should be the starter for the foreseeable future. I've never seen anything like it. He can throw terrible interceptions, and people are like, oh my God, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Now, as an analyst, I understand that that's just coming from the positive feelings of winning football games. But for the Washington, it puts them in a tough spot because if they do bring in their quarterback of the future through the draft or whatever it may be, because it seems like Carson isn't that guy for them, at least right now, because Heinicke's starting, I feel like they've got to get rid of Taylor Heinicke. As long as Taylor Heinicke's on that team, he's going to be a fan favorite, he's going to be a team favorite, and he's going to undercut whoever becomes a starter in the future. And I know that's kind of harsh words for a guy that's going 6-1 right now, but that's just the reality of it. If they're not going to do that and not get rid of him, then they might as well make him the guy and understand that you're kind of signing up for 160, 170 yards with a couple head-scratching decisions and maybe some heroics in the end of the game. If you can win that way, more power to you. But in the long term, they got to figure out what they're going to do with this Taylor Heinicke problem that they have.
Fun question for you. Would you rather have Jordans from Heinicke after a win or one of Brian Robinson's big hats?
Oh, easily one of Brian Robinson's big hats. Come on now.
Easy question.
That's super easy. Like now Heinicke and the Jordans, I like that. That's a very, very cool anecdote that he's added to his post-win column. But the big hat is just, it's so fun. Looks like a Funko Pop, honestly.
I know.
Indeed. RG3, I actually want to deviate a little bit, and I actually want to ask you something that just was something that was always curious to me. You know, your rookie year, you came and took the league by storm, and you had a Warriors mentality where even though you were hurt, you still wanted to be on that field. Right. Do you feel, in hindsight is 2020, but now looking back on that career, do you feel the coaches and the organization should have saved you from yourself?
I would say this, man. As a player, anytime they give you an opportunity to go play, you're going to choose to play. One of the things that gets misconstrued about players in general or applied to certain players is not just this Warriors mentality, but this toughness, right? Phillip Rivers played through a torn ACL, and everybody talked about how tough he was in that moment. Whereas a guy like myself, when I went through my injury in Washington, I did that for my guys. I did that for my teammates, not for myself. I did that because I felt like, man, I owe it to them. I owe it to London Fletcher to go out and give it my all. I owe it to D'Angelo Hall and Santana Moss and Chris Cooley to go out and give it my all. Even if I'm not 100%, I'm still going to try because that's what leaders do. And I feel like that's where it was left for me. Organizationally, I look at it like Tua Tagovailoa situation. He gets the concussion or not a concussion. It's a back injury. He goes out the game, come back the next week. Next week gets another concussion, in my opinion, and he's out. It is the job of the organization, the coaches, the strength staff, the medical staff to protect players from themselves. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we will have that Warriors mentality, and we will go back out there on the football field, even if we have one arm. So that it's fight or flight mode, and most of us always pick fight. And sometimes we got to have people that'll protect us from ourselves in those situations. For me, it did not happen that way. But at the end of the day, my whole story has gotten me to where I am today and made me a better person, better player. And in broadcasting, I can bring that perspective to the fan. And that's something that I am blessed to do.
I agree with you. And honestly, RG3, this isn't hyperbole. I believe you were on your way to a Hall of Fame career. But you know what? You're going to be a Hall of Fame broadcaster. So I think it's excellent how things worked out. One last question from myself and Mac. You know, thank you for coming, but I just want to ask you one more thing. Switching over to the other DMV quarterback, Lamar Jackson. He's one of your former teammates. He's set to be a free agent this offseason. What type of contract do you think he deserves, and what type of contract do you think he's going to get?
Yeah, so, you know, a lot of times when we say deserves, it's almost as if it should be given to him. So I would say I think the contract that Lamar has earned is that $350 million fully guaranteed deal. I don't believe that this year he is playing for a contract and that his play will determine the type of contract that he gets. I believe his play over the course of his career has warranted him getting that type of money. He's had more accomplishments in his career than Kyler Murray. He's got more accomplishments in his career than Deshaun Watson, and both of those guys got paid a boatload of money. What he'll ultimately get, I don't know what he'll ultimately get from Baltimore, because I believe Baltimore is a little reluctant to pay Lamar because of what happened with Joe Flacco. Right. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. They paid him a bunch of money, and then they proceeded to miss the playoffs, I believe, 4 out of the next 6 years. So they're a little concerned about paying the quarterback so much money and what you can do with the rest of the team. But the Kansas City Chiefs have proven that you can pay your quarterback a ton of money and still pay your left tackle on the franchise tag, your star tight end, go get a couple wide receivers, pay your defense. They've shown how you can manipulate the cap. So in Baltimore, I don't think he'll get that $300 million, $350 million fully guaranteed deal, but somebody will pay him that. And, maybe it's could be the New York Jets. You never know.
Hey, the Jets. Can you imagine? Hey, sports fans, if you want to see more conversations with athletes and stars, check out these videos right here and be sure to subscribe for more from USA Today Sports.